I heard correctly. I want to make sure I heard that. So what slowed you down or stopped you and knocked you away from that commitment was that feeling of not wanting to make other people around you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's a lesson here. Because, again, we can all talk, right, about our need that we perceive as a need to make other people comfortable. To seek that approval and that validation and that acceptance. And the moment we don't get that, we feel like they're uncomfortable. And a really wise mentor of mine, a man named Jesse Elder, during one of my coaching calls with him said, the greatest freedom in life, and write this down, this is like a life changer right here. The greatest freedom in life is allowing another to have their own experience. The greatest freedom in life is to allow another to have their own experience. How different would your life be if you no longer were dependent on other people's approval of what you're doing?
Goes right to the people-pleasing thing.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Say it again. Freedom.
The greatest freedom in life is allowing another or others to have their own experience. I at times have a savior complex in me. I don't know if anyone can relate to this. Okay. All right. More than I expected. And my father and grandfather have both passed. So right now I'm the patriarch, the only remaining male of my family. And my grandmother's alive, my mom's alive, my sister's alive. And I find myself at times wanting to save them from challenges that they're facing. And it creates such negative impacts in our relationship because they're not wanting to be saved. They're not even needing to be saved, right? They're having their own life experience, but I'm uncomfortable because of it, and I want to come in and swoop and be the hero, and by doing so, it makes them the victim. Victims don't exist without heroes. So they're not even choosing to be a victim, but I'm assigning them to be a victim.
Can I add something to that?
Yes,
We're
please.
probably going to talk a lot more about it, but it was a huge breakthrough for me to get clarity on this whole people pleaser thing because that's me, or
Yeah.
it was. And when I read in No More Mr. Nice Guy, it was a really good book that talked about it, that it's selfish.
Who wrote the book? Yeah, any resources, guys? I want you to say the name, the title, and the author if you know it.
I don't know the author's
Okay.
name, but No More Mr. Nice Guy is
Okay.
a really good book.
I've heard good things about the book.
It kind of says that men in my generation, and all of our in this culture, it's been
Yeah.
typically raised by mom.
Yep.
Dad was working.
Yep.
And in my generation, that was more likely. And elementary school teachers, mostly women, and we want their approval, and we
Yep.
seek it by basically behaving the way they're showing us what masculinity is supposed to be. When our culture doesn't have rites of passage for men, we're suddenly going to go out
Yes.
and hunt and sleep in, on a tree until we kill an animal.
Mhm.
Instead, we're going to, at least if you have Boy Scouts or something, my dad and I did that together. But a lot of boys are taught to seek approval of mom or the teacher at school by just doing whatever works. Whatever doesn't work, like showing up authentically, whatever that is, being rowdy, like being masculine and like taking your friend's shit in school, and you're suddenly in trouble, and you're like, yeah, I better chill out and try to fit in and get approval. But in adult life, trying to realize, oh, my wife doesn't like it when I'm like this, so suddenly I try to talk quieter and I try to be less abrasive, and suddenly I'm a different person trying to get love. And if that even worked, it's not real need, it's getting love anyway, so it completely doesn't work. But when I read that it's selfish, I thought, well, I thought I was being considerate of others when I'm being a people pleaser. No, I'm making it about me. Like, I want love
Yes.
and attention and approval. It's being selfish. So when I read that, I'm like, wow, now I got, that cuts right through my story of, oh, I'm
Absolutely.
not people pleasing, I'm just a nice guy, considerate of others. But yeah, that helped.
And consider how that affects people's respect of you too, right? If you say yes to everything,
Yeah.
are they going to respect that? Have you ever had people walk all over you? I have, through my people-pleasing tendencies.
Yeah.
And so to take a stand at first is so uncomfortable. It's not easy, it doesn't feel good, but when you do it, you create boundaries of how you will be treated. And when that happens, those people that really are meant to be in your life will respect that. And their respect for you and their desire to be connected to you will actually grow. And those that aren't may not be the best kind of people to have in your life.
I want to share on that.
Yeah.
That's really huge. I'm definitely a people pleaser as well, and that book is great, especially the exercises in the book. And I remember a couple years ago, I was throwing a lot of parties in Mission Beach, and a good friend of mine from out of town came, and he's a big drinker, and he gave away a lot of my alcohol that I had, like, from travels around the world. And normally I'd be like, it's a friend, it's okay, but I felt really, I wasn't happy about that.
Yeah.
And so it was very uncomfortable for me to do this, but I approached him, and the level of respect, like, really skyrocketed. And we're really good friends. I'm in his wedding in Mexico next month. But I didn't want to have that conversation because I didn't want to look bad or, your home's mine kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But having that conversation, the respect really skyrocketed. And it was very counterintuitive, but
I love
having that boundary conversation really
Yeah.
was helpful.
There's so much power in speaking your truth, like so much power. And when you do that, when you keep that within, an example of this, recently when I launched the book, okay, I told my story of the challenges I had growing up with my mom. And I had a book launch party and a lot of friends came out to support me. And the one person who wasn't there is really the one person I wanted most, who was my sister. And the reason she wasn't there was because she was really upset with how open I am about our family life and our upbringing. And I didn't even think of sharing it with her beforehand. And this was an oversight of mine. Again, I'm a believer in letting her have her own experience. And it's important to kind of take a step back and to look at, okay, how could this impact a loved one of mine, which I ignored to do. But she didn't really voice it in the months leading up to that. She was, upset with it 3 months, 6 months, even a year prior to that. And then it turned out into something where we just had this blow up between the two of us. And that's the thing, is that we all have these experiences, right? With family especially, more than anything. But friends, business partners, whatever it is, anytime we feel discomfort, of, something isn't being said, that's going to turn into something bad, unless we speak our truth. Go ahead.
Number one reason why I don't share. Number one reason I feel I'm not in a power position, like in the public eye, because I come from a household where we don't share anything that goes on. So I've always looked to you, like, in this past year that I've known you, year and a half, that, I'm in awe and in envy that you could, share your experiences so vocally, and bloggers, and the whole age of social media has blown up over the past few years, and I always want to be that, but there's, like, the number one fear of judgment, the number one reason why I'm a people pleaser is because I fear what my family will judge me of. And I don't know how much we can talk to that, but I know that you're really good at this, and whatever conversation it is that you have with yourself that allows you to voice that, I'd love to learn.
Yeah.
I know that, already, like, trying to understand, like, how I can allow my family to have their own experience. I've always been, like, my parents' parent from a very young age, and I've kind of worked past that. But, the fear of the repercussion of, like, I had to define healthy boundaries with them, work through what, repercussions were around that, and now I kind of have healthy boundaries, still working on that. But fear of judgment is huge.
What is your deepest fear about that? Like, what's the worst possible scenario that could happen if you were vulnerable and open in a way and your family found out? Like, what's the worst reaction you could experience with them?
I've always taken on the role of being the peacemaker and the peacekeeper in the family. And my mom and dad fought constantly. They're still together, so the marriage might end because of it. My brother, responding in a way that would, like, write me off, which would probably be, like, the worst thing to my mom. And then like, I've got this whole, like, 41 years of story written around this. So.
And I want to share something I heard, because this is big. So the first thing I heard you say was that you've experienced this role and you've taken on this role of peacemaker. right? And we all have roles. We all have identities that we've created unconsciously, actually, over the years of our experiences and what we perceive as the right way to show up. And I'll have you consider one of your greatest fears is actually losing that role of peacemaker, of letting go of it, of not having that title anymore. And I'm just, I want you to consider what that would look like and what that family would look like if you didn't show up as that peacemaker of having to hold space and you just allowed them to have their own experience. One thing that I want to share, and I'll let you share, Alex. Thank you for the acknowledgement, and I just want everyone to know it's not easy to move through this fear of losing approval from your family. When this book came out, my grandmother, so I'm the fourth name passed down from my dad, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. And my grandmother on that side loves me dearly. She helped raise me. She's extraordinary. And she loves me from a very fear-based love, if that makes sense. And when she found out I was writing a book, the first thing she said was, if you put a book out there, I'm going to disown you. Literally. She said that to me. And she said, if you tell this story, you're going to ruin our family name. This was not an easy conversation to have, especially with the woman who helped raise me, who my entire life I experienced security and strength and all of these things through her. And I had to get really clear on why I was doing this. Because this book isn't about me. And that message inside of you isn't even about you at times. It's about the impact that that message will have in the world. And that's what I had to remind myself of, is like, I could choose to make my grandmother feel comfortable and keep this story inside of me, which would be a disservice to the entire world and to anyone who has impacted that. So it's literally a disservice to the world if I was to keep that inside of me. And I had to move through that and keep that in mind of saying, okay, this is not about me and it's not about her. And her ultimate fear is my own security, right? Her ultimate fear is that I do this and I fail. She's really wanted me to go back into investment banking, actually, and get back into that secure job with the paycheck and all that. And she thinks I'm nuts for what I'm doing, like insane. But it's not about her. It's about this purpose inside of me that I feel is literally coming through me. I've worked a lot on this, and I've literally feel like I'm a vessel sharing something that has nothing to do with me at all.